Hey guys, this is the Great Jedi and welcome back to the channel. Now today I'm continuing my How to Not Suck and Become Unstoppable in-depth hero guide series, and in this video I'm going to show you guys how to play Maul, formerly Darth and now just Maul in Star Wars Battlefront 2. But I'm not just going to show you how to play him, I'm going to show you the whole shebang like I do in this series, including striking, ability combos, use of stamina, star cards, and a bunch of other tips and tricks. And I do have quite a bit of tips and tricks to show you, so be sure to stay to the very end because the tips at the end are just as important as the ones in the beginning. Also, if you're wanting to know how to lightsaber duel in general, or just how to use blaster heroes against saber heroes, as well as just how to use other heroes, then be sure to check out those guides on the channel once you're done with this video. All those links will be in the description. Now that we got that out of the way, if you like these types of videos or like this series, be sure to subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you never miss a video. It's free and helps me out. Now let's start off with some basic things about Darth Maul. Maul has 700 health and 250 base health regen, which is about average for a standard lightsaber wielder. And for those that don't know what a health regen pool is, it is basically when you take a ton of damage, you can heal back up to 250 HP, meaning that you don't get all of your health back. Although there is still a way of getting all of your health back if you end up taking a lot more damage than what you initially thought, and that would be through his passive ability, which all of the heroes have with the exception of Bosk, and that is health on elimination. And basically what a passive ability means is that you have it no matter what, you don't even need any star cards to have it, you automatically have it even at level 1. And that passive ability makes it where Maul can regain health for each defeated enemy. You get 20 health back for each trooper or reinforcement you kill, and 100 health back for an enemy hero. Now regarding Maul's stamina pool, it's slightly above average and he can swing a total of 14 times before running out. And if you guys don't know where to see a stamina bar, it's right above the health bar at the bottom of the screen. It's a bluish white color until you get low, which in that case it will turn red and it depletes when you swing or block. Now, I did want to also mention that it will take less stamina for you to block than to swing, so be sure to use that to your advantage in whatever situation you may be in. Maul also has a base of 2 normal dodges, which can be very effective when timing them right because they can get you out of a lightsaber combo and also give you the ability to dodge incoming attacks, whether it's the opponent's basic attack or their abilities. And what I mean by that is that Maul has 2 dodges, which will continually recharge, and if you time them incorrectly, you can avoid an attack. For example, let's say Anakin is about to pull or hurl Maichu with his ability, you can dodge, and if you are in the middle of your dodge animation, then you won't be affected at all by it, and that goes for all dodges. Just notice I said dodges and not dashes because they are different. And I mean different in the aspect of abilities because some heroes have actual dash abilities which are different from dodges. Now about his base lightsaber damage, you can do about 120 damage from the front and about 150 damage from behind, which is about average, which means that you can one-shot any of the infantry classes from the back with the exception of the heavy class. Just keep in mind that Maul also has a slightly faster swing speed compared to a lot of other heroes, so just use that to your advantage in your movement. And speaking of movement, Darth Maul is very fast. In fact, he's the fastest one in the game, so it's very good to rely on his movement and speed because that is one of his greatest strengths, which can make him very hard to hit and very aggressive while being powerful. Like seriously, if you look back at the game's history, Darth Maul was the only saber user who didn't have a block while it being balanced because he was just so good at being offensive and he would be able to use more offense as his defense, if that makes sense. Well, that's kind of hard to explain. That's just something you got to experience in the game's past. And the only reason why they gave him a block is because the broken one, Anakin Skywalker, got put into the game and there was nothing he could have done to defend himself. Now, I'm getting a bit off topic now, but I did want to bring this up. That way I can show you guys the best way to play him, and that is offensively. He was designed that way, just like Obi-Wan was designed as a defensive hero. Now, I'm not saying you can't play Maul defensively or Obi-Wan offensively, because you definitely can. I'm just saying you'll find it much easier to get the hang of them and do so much better if you play them the way they're designed by playing on their strengths rather than their weaknesses. For example, if you're trying to get a quick kill and then get out of the area because there's a lot of enemies around, I would say it's definitely worth it unless you've used all of your dash abilities, because without his dashes he can still be deadly, but it will be a lot easier for enemies to shoot you since you're staying in one area slicing everyone up. Although if you do have your dashes charged, then go for it. It's literally easy kills as you're going by. You can just saber throw as you're running towards them and then follow up with several dashes going back and forth, and if there's still 1 or 2 remaining that you want to kill, you can kill them with your middle ability. Like seriously, Darth Maul is the ultimate old master if you combine his abilities with his damage and speed. Just overall be aware and use his fast movement, swing speed, and damage output to your advantage if you don't have your abilities, because it's not a great idea to stay and get several kills if you're out of dashes, because there's a high chance you may die trying to get the kill with the bad hit detection. So you just have a better shot trying to get out of there, regain what health you can, and then go back and kick some butt with your abilities. Now before I talk about his abilities, let's go over all of his strikes. Now remember, he has some decent damaging strikes and a fast swing speed, so be sure to combo some of these moves together and you'll see that you'll be able to take out your opponent very, very quickly. So first off, you have his basic attack, then his right dash attack, then his left dash attack, then his back dash attack, then his front dash attack, then his lunge attack, then his small jump attack, and then he even has his normal jump attack. Now let's continue to talk about his 3 abilities. His middle one is called Chokehold, and that allows Darth Maul to use the Force to choke his enemies before throwing them to the ground. Now this ability does about 77 total damage per enemy. You deal 42 damage when grabbing your opponent, and then another 35 for throwing them. Now, I do want to bring up one thing because this is very annoying and happens to me almost every time I pick Maul in a larger scale game mode, if not all the time, and that is the server lag with him. And no, it has nothing to do with Wi-Fi and all to do with Maul on the servers in the larger scale game modes. It's like his abilities and his hit detection are off and delayed. So if you're low health, then I would just say it's probably better to use your dash to get out of the area, damaging any enemies in your way, so you can get out and recover whatever health you need back. Now this ability is great because you not only ragdoll your opponent, but it also keeps them still in the air for a second so your teammates can shoot them. Plus, if you're up against another saber user and use it on them, it will give you some distance for you to get some of your health back. Not only that, but one amazing thing about this ability that a lot of people don't know is that you can kind of use this ability in the air. And that makes it really special because most people don't realize that you can use some force powers in the air. And if they do know that, they don't know that Maul can use his force abilities in the air. Kind of. And I can't tell you how many people I catch off guard with that, and you are able to do that by using it on your way down from the jump right there before you hit the ground, which is a great time to use it because that's typically your most vulnerable spot in the jump. So when people go up to punish you, you can just catch them off guard by using it right before you hit the ground. Now, the main downside to this ability is that it has an activation animation where you stand still and you can take so much damage. Not only that, you can't get out of it, sadly. So if you happen to miss it or it bugs out, which can happen, you're going to take a lot of damage. So I would recommend not using this ability when you're low health because most likely you will die, and this ability has about an 18-second cooldown. Now moving on to his left ability, which is called Furious Throw, it is where Maul hurls his lightsaber, damaging all enemies it touches. And this ability does about 85 base damage per hit with a total of 170 damage if you land both hits. Just keep in mind when using this ability, you can't block, so you are left defenseless. Although one way to counter that is to dash back, forwards, or to the side. That way you can defend yourself from any force powers or blaster fire that would have hit you until your saber comes back. Then after you dodge, the saber will be right back in your hands, ready to block anything that gets in your way. Another perk to this ability is that it staggers your opponents and it kills all infantry with the exception of the heavy class. This ability can also be used in the air as you're jumping up or down, and it doesn't hinder his movement at all, so you can just continue to run once he throws his saber or finish jumping since there's no activation animation. So overall, this ability is really good for range attacks. It only has an 8-second cooldown, so whenever you have it, don't be afraid to use it. Now moving on to his right ability, he has Spin Attack, and Spin Attack allows Maul to leap forward, executing a high velocity lightsaber spin attack. Now this ability is by far his best ability in most situations in my opinion. This damages anyone in your path, you move fast, and you're super hard to hit. So this is great for crowd control in the aspect of getting into fights, and even getting out of fights very fast. Plus, it even has a big hitbox and a super short cooldown. It's only like 5 seconds, and you can store up to 2 without having any star cards. Plus, if you aim it right, you can actually deflect blaster fire while in the middle of that animation. It is hard to pull off, but you can deflect blaster fire. Overall, it's honestly a great ability that can get you out of a lot of sticky situations. Just be aware for those skilled lightsaber opponents because this ability can be parried. Now for this part of the video, I'm going to be going over my hero mode star cards, which includes heroes versus villains and hero showdown, as well as giving you guys some tips and tricks for those modes, and my large scale mode star cards, which includes galactic assault and supremacy, as well as giving you guys some more tips and tricks for those modes as well. So let's get started off with my hero mode star cards. Now before I do say them, I do want to say that all the star cards are pretty good, and it's really up to you and your playstyle, but after playing the game for a while and figuring out my playstyle, these are the star cards that work best for me. Now for the hero modes, I go with range throw, accelerated throw, and flow motion. I go with the range throw star card because that allows Furious Throw to travel 50% farther when fully upgraded, which means he'll be able to have even more range while in those hero modes, which is great especially against blaster users. Then I chose the star card Accelerated Throw because that allows Maul to fling his Furious Throw more violently, making it deal 20 more damage per hit. So if you have this star card equipped, that boosts up your saber throw damage to 105 per hit with a total of 210 damage, which is decent damage to any hero. Plus, when you stack it with the other star card that I mentioned, range throw, he can do more damage at a decent range from your opponent. So if you need to heal up, you can do that as you're dealing damage to your opponent. Then I chose my last star card, Flow Motion, because it allows Maul to do one extra spin attack, but the recharge rate is slightly slower by 10%. So that means he can have up to 3 spin attacks charged at one time, which is pretty dang good. And to be honest with you, I don't even really realize the 10% extra recharge time with that ability. Just overall, it's a great must-have card in my opinion, because that means you can move super fast without taking much damage by combining all 3 of your dash attacks together, and can even take on several enemies grouped together by just turning around and dashing back and forth. Plus, it combos with your other abilities as well as your main attack, so it's great to have an extra spin attack handy. Now, if you don't like my main 3 choices, there is a couple other star cards I would recommend, especially if you're in HPV, and that would be Fool Me Once, Lightsaber Defense, or even Forceful Thrust if you're on a map with ledges where you can cheap kill your enemy. And if you do like any of those other options, I would highly recommend switching out one or even both of your Saber Throw cards for Lightsaber Defense or Fool Me Once. But if you're wanting Forceful Thrust, I would switch that card out for Flow Motion, because most likely you'll be equipping that card on a ledge map, and with an extra spin attack, that's just a greater chance that you will dash off a cliff trying to hit your opponent. And I said Lightsaber Defense because it gives you 16% damage reduction against blasters, but if you're not up against any blaster users, then don't use this card because it will be a complete waste, so be sure to know who you're up against so you don't waste a slot. Then the Fool Me Once star card allows the recharge rate to be 10% faster for all of Darth Maul's abilities, so if you have that Flow Motion card equipped, which I would, where it has a downside of an extra 10% recharge time with that ability, this card completely cancels out that downside and helps out your other 2 abilities regarding recharge time to allow you to have your abilities more often. And I will say Forceful Thrust on a ledge map because this allows Chokehold to throw your enemies 100% farther away, which basically means he's doubling the distance of which you throw your opponent, which can be very helpful when trying to land a cheap kill or even get more distance if you happen to need it. And now that you guys know why I chose those star cards for hero modes, I can give you a quick few tips on how to take out those annoying enemy heroes. So one skill you gotta learn is pairing. If you don't know how to do it, be sure to check the description for another video I've made because I go into depth on it. Now, besides pairing, comboing your abilities and using your speed while keeping your stamina in mind is a great way to use your hero effectively. For example, some easy combos you can pull off is to activate your dash attack to the point where you're right behind them and then follow up with 2 basic attacks. Then most likely, if you're up against someone that knows what they're doing, they will back up blocking. Then you can just saber throw them as you're running towards them. It will hit them in the back, and once they're staggered from that saber throw, you can follow up with an attack, or you can even repeat the first process I said about dashing behind your opponent. Remember, you want to play aggressively with Maul. His saber throw and spin attack recharge time is pretty quick, so be sure to use them all the time when they become available. Some other things you can combo is your middle ability Chokehold, and then as they are being flung in the air, you can start running to the point where they will fall, but as you do that, you can time the saber throw to hit them in midair, and if you're still not quite there, you can close that gap with the spin attack, and then get those extra couple hits on them. Now, I will say that combo is a bit harder to pull off because you need to practice your timing between the chokehold throw and your saber throw, but just keep on practicing it and you'll get the hang of it. Now, if a saber hero is rushing you and you just want to back off and get your health regen, a great way to do that is to saber throw as you dash back. That way it increases your chance of hitting them on the front and on the way back to you. But as you dash back and that saber is coming back to you, you should turn around and start your spin attacks to get that distance. So right there, you should be good for your defense retreat if you need it, because you stagger your opponent with that saber throw in front and on the way back, as well as you doing 3 spin attacks, and you have like the fastest running speed in the game, so you should have some decent distance and your health regen should already be replenished. But for some reason you didn't, because you got hit in the process by a ranged attack of some sort, remember, you still have your middle ability, so you can just turn around as they're running after you and it'll just force choke them back and you can just continue to run. Now, I did want to bring something up about this though, because it can be countered if done correctly by blocking or dashing, and then they will just catch up while you're standing there in your activation animation and finish you off by punishing you. So I would not recommend using that ability unless they are at the halfway or the part of the second half of the full area of effect. That way, if you happen to miss, you're still good because they still have to catch up to you before they punish you. But if you don't do this and they're right behind you, and if this happens to bug out or they counter it, you will take a lot of damage by doing that activation animation. Now, if none of those offensive combos are working for you, be sure to be more offensive with your attacks, especially your lunge attacks, because his is pretty good. He can lunge at a farther distance than a lot of other heroes. So you can always lunge attack, saber throw as you dash back, and then right when they think you're going back because of that dash back, they normally just run in and try and get you back by attacking, and that's when you can just dash attack and then chain your dashes together. Or you can even lunge attack, dash attack, and then turn around, saber throw as you dash back, then do your spin attacks, because the time you have done all that, the third spin attack is already charged up again. And I can go on and on about different combos you can use depending on the situation, but hopefully that gives you guys a decent direction. Now, if you are going against a blaster user, you need to close that distance, which shouldn't be much of a problem for you, because for most blaster users, as long as you're moving, you're fast. So most people are going to miss as long as you're dodging side to side and being unpredictable. But if you happen to be against a blaster user that's just so skilled like me, then you could just walk towards them with your block up to close that distance to the point where you're close enough to rely on your spin attacks. You can even throw your saber in between a spin attack once you're close enough. That way you already have some damage done to them and your saber throw is recharging and will be ready to go in about 8 seconds from that point. Now remember, you don't want to use your middle ability chokehold on those blaster heroes because you are just giving them more distance, so I would highly recommend not doing that. But if you need to for whatever reason, or just need some space to get some stamina back or even some health, then make sure once you do that to lead up with your spin attacks, so that way all you have to do is basically attack them once you're there. Just be careful that they are in range of your force choke, because if you miss because they're out of range or they happen to roll at the right time, then you're going to regret doing that. And you'll realize that right off the bat, right when it happens, if they're a smart player, because they will just shoot you non-stop as you're standing there with no damage reduction unless you have that star card on. That's why I personally use the force choke after they roll if I happen to need it, but you will find it in most situations that you won't need it even for stamina, because your spin attacks charges so fast. That way you can just use them almost all the time, and it's great for getting distance or even closing that distance as well, and it just doesn't use any stamina, so you can just recover it when you chain them together. And anytime you close that distance and get to your opponent, don't start swing spamming, because this roly-poly over here is just rolling around laughing and shooting at you in the head. Just block while they roll, and then once they waste their roll, you swing. And if they don't roll, then great! Just hit that dummy for not countering your attacks. Now, if you're up against a powerful blaster like Leia's E11 Rapid Fire or even Han's DL44, and they're shooting at you in the head and they're just not missing, don't swing spam. Just deflect their laser bolts right back at them, and once they start to realize they're taking damage, they will stop or roll, and that's when you attack. You hit them right before or right after their roll, and then if you need more stamina, remember, you got your spin attacks. Now, for the larger scale game modes, I would go with the star cards Flow Motion, Accelerated Throw, and Lightsaber Defense. Now, if you want some other great cards that I also use and switch out in these large scale game modes, I also go with Range Throw and Fool Me Once, but the first three I named are my main three that I use most of the time. I've already explained why I like those star cards, but I wanted to show you guys an example of how powerful these cards can be when combined together. For example, Flow Motion gives you an extra dash, which is pretty self-explanatory, but having the Lightsaber Defense star card on allows you to basically have 812 total health when up against blaster users, because of the 60% damage reduction, which really comes in handy, and that goes pretty good with the Accelerated Throw star card because he is able to take out all infantry, including heavies. Now, for some tips in these larger scale game modes is to really use your speed and fast movement to get those better positions where you can maximize your damage while only taking a little bit in those intense situations. For example, use those spin attacks, large lunge attacks, and saber throws to your advantage when it comes to range. Try and really focus on not taking too much damage. You want to get in there and get out as quickly as possible while taking out as many enemies as you can without taking too much damage, because you may take a little damage trying to get out of there. Now, I will say the server lag is just absolutely ridiculous when it comes to Darth Maul, where the hit detection is pretty broken, so it's better to just not take a lot of damage. And I say once you lose more than 100 health and you haven't killed that enemy, I just say get out now, regain what health you can, let your abilities refresh, and then go back and kick some butt, because most likely you'll be taking quite a bit of damage just trying to get out of the crowded area because of the bad hit detection. Now, regarding his middle ability, I would say only to use that to finish off a group of enemies or to get any reinforcements or heroes off of you when trying to escape, because it's not worth force choking a group of enemies at full health because it won't instant kill anyone. You will just be standing there still for a second just for anyone to shoot you, and the people that you just choked and threw, you just gave them more distance to shoot at you. I would say the only exception to this is that if you can time your left ability with your middle ability where you can force choke them and as they're falling, saber throw them. This also works really good against aerial troopers because they think they're getting away with their little jetpack, and then you can just force choke them, saber throw them, and then they're dead. Also, just be aware of your positioning and movement, and that will honestly just come in time as you learn the maps and practice, and you'll soon be able to tell what fights you're able to take and which ones aren't such a great idea. For example, if you see several enemies grouped up by the objective, all you gotta do is just spin attack several times and then saber throw on your way out, and that's without any teammates. If you have a decent teammate or two, that's willing to push the objective with you, you can just saber throw, just use one spin attack, and then stay near the objective. Just overall, be a super fast, damaging, powerful, moving machine, but still be aware of your positioning. Also, don't be afraid to use his abilities defensively, even though he's an aggressive hero, because if there ends up being a hero sweat on you, you can just turn around and hit them with your force choke, and then you can just continue wherever you were going using your spin attacks. If you're going with your team, you can do that and regroup, get your health and abilities back, and then push whenever you're ready again. Now, if you want to know some good maps that you can do decent with Maul, and I'm not saying you can't do good with him on any of the other maps, because you definitely can. You can honestly do great with him no matter the map as long as he's in the right hands. But if you're wanting to practice him, maps like Naboo, Tatooine, Death Star, Yavin, Kamino, and Starkiller Base are great for him. Basically anywhere where there's quite a bit of cover and small hallways, he will obliterate. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this hero guide. If you did enjoy it, please consider liking the video if you liked it, or dislike it if you disliked it. But if any of you guys have any questions, comments, or constructive criticism for me, please put them all in the comments down below, because I do read and respond to them. Seriously, some people don't ask me questions because they think I'm not going to answer, or they don't want to bother me. What's the worst that can happen? Me not answer? Come on. Remember, I'm here to help you guys out. Also, remember that there's always improvement that can be made, so be sure to let me know what I can do better for all those future hero guides. And if you are interested in those future hero guides, Battlefront 2 in general, or just everything Star Wars, or just even want to help me out, please consider sharing, liking, and subscribing while hitting that notification bell down below so you never miss a video. And if any of you guys have any other tips for Darth Maul that you guys can give, be sure to do so in the comments down below, because there's tons of tips and tricks out there, as well as different strategies, so others may learn from the comment section as well. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and may the Force be with you always.